YouTube! What the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Attila. And I wanted to do a quick review of the new free content, which would be the Swabian faction, or the Suebi. And then also kind of give you a general review of my thoughts so far on the last Roman campaign DLC, which released today. Obviously I got to play it early, and I've got a few hours in on that campaign, so whenever I give you this review, it is not some I've played for, again, keep in mind, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. If I was, I would have sat at home and cranked out 12, 13, 14, 15 hours on it, whatever I could, but I can't do that. But I can give you a review based on what I've played, and that'll be fine, because not all of you probably sit around for 15 hours a day playing Total War either. So make it a pretty fair review. What I want to do is cover the Swabians real quick, and just give you some thoughts on them as a faction. And before I start this video, let me just go ahead and preface it by saying I'm gonna probably sound pretty negative, but wait till the end and you'll hear my overall thoughts on it. So let's jump into the Swabians. They are a very copy-paste Germanic something faction, except probably with even less variability than some of the other Germanic something factions. So for me, the Suebi as a faction are very underwhelming. And again, this is coming from someone who loves Total War, and I'm not, again, before you freak out, just listen to everything I have to say and you can make your own decision and decide whether I'm overreacting or not. So the general they have here is a Suebi noble, and then of course the Germanic nobles, which every Germanic something faction has access to. I'm curious though with the Suebi nobles. Let's throw up a comparison here of, let's say, like a Vandal warlord. Should be a similar type general, I think. No, it's not. We need like I think it's a sword-based general. No, it isn't. So yeah, there's your Suebi noble. And if we compare it up against, say, like a Vandal warlord, they are different units. I mean, one has a little higher attack and other stuff like that. So I mean, they're not exactly the same, but it's a similar idea. So I won't really hold that against them, and it is a somewhat unique unit here. It has a really good attack versus cavalry too. It's going to be a pretty nice general unit, way better choice than the Germanic noble. When it comes to spears, you get Germanic something levy, something spearmen, and something spear masters. Again, no variation from your standard Germanic roster, which honestly has been a huge complaint for most of us on Attila. I mean, look, Alamans, you've got Germanic levy, Germanic spearmen, Germanic spearmasters, and then of course their specialty was some extra spears. So it's like every German faction is the same base faction with a couple of different units. And for me, this is a problem. It's a problem because it's less fun. Now, don't get me wrong, each faction has different faction traits, and I kind of think they did pretty well with the different faction traits when it comes to campaigns, so some of these factions still feel a little different when you're playing a campaign. But when it comes to units and multiplayer, so variety of units in campaign and variety of units in multiplayer, it's really bad. And the Suebi aren't going to change much here, because all they offer is that base something. Now, keep in mind, as I'm recording this, I'm still using the build that the Creative Assembly gave me ahead of the launch, so I don't know if some of these things will change in the actual launch. I don't think any of the units that are coming are going to change, but some of these things I'm going to show you that irritate me might. The Suebi Oath Takers, Wait. I can see the Germanic Spearmasters here, but when I click the Suebi Oath Takers to look at their stats, they're not even in the encyclopedia. So again, benefit of the doubt here, maybe the Creative Assembly just gave me a build that's a little bit early and they're going to fix some of the stuff when it releases. We'll find out. I'll come back and look, but that's irritating in and of itself, because now I can't see some of the special stats of this unit that aren't shown here. I would have to actually get into the game directory, which is just annoying. So again, another irritation. But look, so a 650 spearmen. It's a heavy spearman, just like the Germanic Spearmasters. They have the same weapon damage as the Germanic Spearmasters. It's a 10 difference in health, a few difference in morale, and otherwise, the Germanic Spearmaster is a better unit. It's got 13 more melee attack. So what is the benefit of this Suebi Oath Taker, this special new unit that they offer? Nothing, in essence. Very little. I mean, we basically just took the Germanic Spearmaster, made a different unit card, and called it Suebi Oathtaker, while changing just a few things. It doesn't make any sense. Like, so the melee attack is less, but do I get some other benefit? Apparently not. So again, this unit to me already serves no purpose. Maybe there's some hidden stats that I don't understand yet, but because the encyclopedia doesn't work and I can't go get into the game files, I can't see that. So Germanic Pikes, Noble Germanic Swordsmen, the Noble Suebi Swordsmen were already available to some of the other Germanic factions, so it's kind of funny because it's Noble Suebi Swordsmen, but the Suebi aren't unique in having them. And then they added this unit here, the Suebi Champion, which is a ludicrously strong melee unit. And again, though, not in the encyclopedia. I'll check back to see whether or not the encyclopedia is functioning with these units after the release of this, because again, remember, I'm filming this the night before release, so I'm not holding that against the Creative Assembly now, because that could be something they're addressing, so don't panic about that. But again, it's frustrating, because, you know, if you're giving me a copy to review, I'm not saying it has to be perfect, and I'm used to having review copies and knowing that some things are in progress. I'm okay with that. It's still irritating, though, because it seems like you'd want to put your best foot forward always. Again, though, not complaining. They let me in on this, and I appreciate it, but I have to call it like it is here. I can't just glaze over it like it doesn't irritate me, because it does. So this is a very strong unit, and it's going to provide some serious hitting power to the Suebi. And these Noble Suebi Swordsmen are very, very expensive. They are very tanky, but this Suebi Champion's a very offensive unit. The fact that it has excellent capture power won't play much into multiplayer, but that means that this unit is going to be sick on the campaign map because of their really good armor. They can basically charge forward, capture towers, and waste whoever's standing at the foot of it. So it'll be an interesting unit in campaign, and at least this unit offers something truly different to the Suebi in my mind. I am curious, though. I know the UR Warriors were nerfed, actually, in this patch. Their attack was nerfed. Let's pull the Huns real quick. I'm just kind of curious what they look like stacked up against, say, like a chosen Ur at 725s, 55, 50, 40, 30, 42. Yeah, I mean, this unit is probably better than the UR Warrior. The UR Warrior has better melee damage and a little bit better charge, but this unit over here has more armor and health. So, I mean, that's a tanky unit, and it's very heavy melee infantry, which means it's going to lay down some punishing charges. You got these standard Germanic single-handed axe units, and single-handed axes supposedly took a buff in the last patch. I have not gotten to test this, and again, this video is about the DLC and Free-LC. I will make another video tomorrow covering the patch and what I think about the patch. That'll give me a chance to actually see what they released to make sure that I'm not preempting anything. So, the Suebi Warriors look like a decent single-handed axe unit. As far as single-handed axe units can go, they have a really good charge bonus. They have almost no melee defense, but they have solid armor, and their health is pretty decent for an offensive unit, and again, they have the Raider trait, so in campaign, these guys will be pretty useful. Multiplayer, it remains to be seen, but I mean, with really good armor-piercing damage and solid attack, decent armor, strong charge, I mean, surely they should be okay as an offensive unit. All the standard Germanic something-something bow infantry, nothing new here. Crossbow, same. Germanic Hurler, the same. Germanic Brigands, the same. Melee Cavalry, exactly the same. Germanic Mounted Warband, Horsemen, Typhali Cavalry, Noble Germanic Horsemen, so zero change when it comes to the cavalry. Royal Suebi Cav was already available to some of the other something-something factions, I believe. Like, I don't think it's the Franks. It's not. Who was it that had access to these guys? Was it the Alamans? Let's take a look. No, who was it? Someone else had access to these guys. These Sarmatians, not the Alans, not the Alamans. Sorry, I should have looked at this ahead of time, but I did not. Is it the Ostrogoths? Someone's got access to the Royal Suebi Cav. I've seen it before. Because I know it's not a new unit per se. It's the Vandals, maybe? Yes, Royal Suebi Cav. So, again, not even a unique Cav unit given for them other than this general up here, which is kind of unique, but not a whole lot different. So, I'm going to sum it up for you. The Suebi Free-LC, you get it for free, so can't argue with the price. So I'm not here to bash on the price, and it is free, but I'm just going to say that this game went untouched for a couple of months. I don't know the exact span of time, with almost no clue as to what was coming next. Very little input from the Creative Assembly, and the Suebi DLC or Free-LC here, again, not arguing with the price, it's free. Just it's not real exciting. I mean, unless you were just looking for another campaign faction to play. So as far as my review of the Free-LC, I mean, again, it's free. That's what I'll say for it. Otherwise, not particularly exciting. Now let's talk about the Last Roman campaign DLC, and it's added in right here, as you can see. So as far as the campaign goes, I'll go ahead, and I've had to have a lot of negative in so far, so let's throw some positive in. I like the campaign map. I like the fact that I get to play a Roman expedition, which means that I'm playing as Romans, but it's kind of like the Horde mechanics from the other one. It's kind of a fun combination. If you choose to just reclaim the empire, as you've watched in my videos, you can kind of just haul butt through, let the Romans take care of the provinces while you just come through kicking everybody's butt. That's pretty fun. I enjoy it. It's a bit of a change of pace, and I like it. It's a nice addition. Again, you can do something. I would say you could do something similar in the Grand Campaign, but you really can't because you're not reclaiming things for another faction. And to be honest, it'd be kind of cool if they added that ability. If you were a migration faction, could you gift provinces to certain people? Could you give them to the original owners? I don't know. I mean, it's not necessary, just an idea. But so as far as the campaign goes, big map, lots of settlements. It focuses on a historical time period and a military campaign that's fun. It's interesting. Belisarius went back and recaptured lands to try and bring back the glory of Rome. One last hurrah for the Roman Empire as it once was. Very good. I like it in that sense. Good setting. The units that are on here look cool. I mean, the map is good. It's fun to play. So from a playability standpoint, I'd give the DLC good marks. I'd probably say it was an 8 or 9 out of 10 as far as being fun to play. And that's my opinion. You don't have to agree if this is not your kind of thing. The Roman expedition is kind of where you can do the reclaiming thing and act that way as a horde, whereas the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, Franks, and the Visigoths are all going to be settled factions, where you're actually managing the province. But of course, the other fun thing that they throw in is that you don't have to reclaim the empire for Justinian. You can turn against Justinian and reclaim the empire for yourself. So again, I like that. So as far as playability goes, like I said, I'd rate it, I'll go ahead and call it an 8.5. As far as playability and just good idea, and I'll give Creative Assembly credit for it being a solid campaign DLC in that sense. Let me just do a quick review of the different faction traits that you get. So the Roman Expedition, you get Reclamation, Roman Will, and Reformation of the Western Empire. So in short, you can reclaim regions for the Empire, which you saw me doing. No movement cost to fortify or encamp, which is nice. And then there's a Reformation, the Reformation pieces that if you control 40 regions, you gain the diplomatic option of joining empires together, I believe, or something like that. The Vandalic Kingdom, they get extra piracy, they're sabotage specialists, so their agents have better chances of sabotage. And then the same thing, if they get 40 regions, they can make people to join or ask people to join their empire. That trait, the Reformation of the Western Empire, is the same for all factions, because I think you basically get the option as all these factions to build your own Rome with any of these factions, which again, that's why I'm rating this thing higher when it comes to playability. And you know, Eric, you're acting like you're going to rate it lower on something. I am. Just hang in there and I'll get to it when I cover all this with you. So it looks like as far as starting positions, you got normal for the expedition, hard for the Vandals, normal for the Ostrogoths, normal for the Franks, and easy for the Visigoths. So the Visigoths would be kind of your beginner faction. It looks like the Franks and the Romans will kind of be your midpoint, and the more difficult ones will be, well, I say that, the Franks, Ostrogoths. Yeah, it looks like the Vandals will be your challenging campaign if you're looking for more initial challenge. And it's probably because the expedition starts right there in your land. So anyway, let's take a look at the Ostrogoths. They have impatience, so plus 10 morale for 5 turns after a battle victory. Occupation, so there's no instability public order when occupying a settlement. That's pretty cool. The Frankish Kingdom. Battle honor, so there's no penalty to integrity from casualties suffered in a battle, which can be handy. And then they get +3 experience for cavalry recruits. And then you got the Visigoths here, which have a high rate of religious conversion in all owned provinces. And there's no public order penalties from immigration in owned provinces, which is pretty cool too, because immigration penalties, unless it was patched in this, which I didn't see any specific notes about, it can get pretty severe. So anyway, again, overall, I'd say between 8 and 9, depending on what your opinion is, so I'll just call it 8.5 out of 10 as far as the playability of the Last Roman campaign. Would I recommend it to others? Yeah, sure. If you got a few extra bucks and you want to add on to your Attila game, I would recommend it. Now, what are my beefs with the Last Roman campaign? And this is a beef that may sway your decision on whether to buy it, so that's why I'm adding it in here. Again, just from playing the campaign and the way it plays and the idea, I like it. Here's what I don't like. The rosters are extremely thin for certain factions in this. It doesn't look like there was much, if any, time spent on fleshing it out. What do you mean by that, Air? Well, let me show you. So here's the Western Roman Empire as it stood before the expedition. I'm going to turn off the large battles. There we go, because it's making it confusing. So there's a pretty good roster variety here for the West Romans. 3 different generals, quite a few spear infantry, lots of melee infantry, which is fun as the Romans because they were known for the heavy melee infantry. Skirmishing, okay, you didn't have a lot of bows, whatever. You got some crossbows, you got skirmishers, you got decent melee cav, shot cav. You get nice variety with the West Romans. And so as they mature through time, you would expect, hey, well, whatever, they're still going to have unit variety, they're going to have other units. Well, what they did basically was keep just a couple of units like Exploratores and Preventores or whatever, and then they kind of just cheaped everything else out to where now there's like hardly any options when it comes to melee infantry. These guys are Legio as far as the unit card goes, and they're basically there for stats. We've just renamed them, the Foederati. Again, just, I don't know, it's just weird. It's like why would you cut the roster down? I understand that it's a different time period and maybe some of the units weren't still the same or they went by different names, but find a way to keep it varied and to keep it interesting. This is not enough. You know, when you go to buy a campaign pack and we're thinking about new factions and stuff, it's nice when they have more than, you know, at least as many options as when you bought the original faction here, when you bought the game. So I'm very disappointed in the roster. So really, you get these 5 melee infantry plus 2 axe infantry as your fighting tools in the campaign. These 2 are nothing new, so you could toss them out. So in reality, you get 3 units that are new, and whether or not they're new is probably up to argument. These guys are essentially just armored legio. Or close to armored legio. The Foederati don't really have a whole lot of equivalency, but I mean, okay, so maybe it's a new unit, and then you got these guys, the Antisignani, or however you pronounce it. I don't really know how to pronounce these guys right. Interesting unit. They are very, very tanky, really good armor, and a little bit better attack than, say, like an armored legio. So this unit's okay, but again, when it boils down to it, it's like 2 new melee units. The axe units are somewhat interesting. They are pretty beefy, and these guys are going to be kind of the real power that you have if you end up with any power. As far as melee infantry goes, they are pretty potent. And these guys are nice in the sense that this infantry appears pretty underwhelming. You're going to need these guys. Now, you do have access to armored Sagittari, which is nice, and I'm comparing these guys to the West Romans. I guess technically we should compare them to the East Romans, since Belisarius came from the Eastern Empire. But it's still the same story. Pike infantry gone. Maybe it was gone in real life too. Fine, whatever. Just saying that there's not as much variety. Still less melee variety, less spear variety. You get a little more axe variety, I guess, because the Heterea guards were the only thing you had access to here. Holy nerf! Did they nerf the melee attack of the Heterea guards? Pretty sure they did. Don't remember that being 35. I'll have to take a look at it. But in any case, yeah, I mean, you can see that I used to have all of these options for melee cav. I mean, that's been cut down. Your shot cav, shot cav's pretty exactly the same, except they took cataphractari, called it cataphracti, and then give you this extra one here, the Bucellari or whatever they are. I don't know how to pronounce that one. It is an interesting shot cav unit, don't get me wrong, but I mean, for the most part, you're talking very little change through here. I mean, this is a good cav unit. Very, very strong one, too. And it looks like they come with a couple of shots from a bow. Down here, you get Hippotoxotai, which is a horse archer, a medium horse archer, and then you get these Foederati horse archers, which are a light bow cav. So you do get these. This is nice. It's a little more than what you had offered as the Eastern Empire. You only had these Equites Sagittari. So again, there's a few units that are added. Overall, though, extremely underwhelming when it comes to factions. I'll show you the other ones real quick, too, that are in the expansion here. And I don't know if you can actually play these guys in multiplayer. That I'll have to see whenever we get there. But if we take a look, the Vandals retain the same roster, if I understand it right, in the new campaign, and I believe that the Franks do as well. They maintain the same roster in that campaign. Whereas what's odd is the Ostrogoths actually have this Ostrogothic kingdom, maybe that's supposed to represent once they retook Rome. They changed a little, and it looks like their units are somewhat Romanized, maybe as far as what they look like here. So you do get some new units here with the Ostrogoths. I haven't compared them to the old Ostrogoth units. So for all I know, again, we could be talking about basically just copying and pasting the same stuff, but hey, at least it looks different. We got some different names, and hopefully it's going to feel a little different. So actually I'm okay with what they did with the Ostrogoths. Now, the unfortunate thing, again, they made some new units, and they kind of evolved the Ostrogoths into a new-looking faction, which I like. But again, take it and compare it to the old Ostrogoth, and you had way more options. Again, this is just something to me that I don't understand why you would cut back on the number of options, especially when it's a paid DLC. That's frustrating to me. So again, maybe it doesn't bother you, but it bugs me. So yeah, the Vandals, Visigoths, the Franks all maintain the same roster, and it's the Roman Expedition and the Ostrogothic Kingdom that looks like they slightly switch up their roster. So again, kind of an odd deal. So as far as the unit diversity and kind of the additional units and other stuff, to me, it comes across as lazy. I'm not necessarily saying that it was lazy or whatever. I don't work at the Creative Assembly. I don't know what's happened. I'm just speaking from the perspective of a customer. It looks lazy. Not real exciting from a roster standpoint. So from a roster standpoint, I'd give this like a big 5 out of 10. It's pretty lame. So I'm not going to lie, it's pretty lame. So overall, would I recommend that you get it? If you like playing campaign and you want something a little different in campaign, then yes, I would recommend that you get it. I think you will enjoy the campaign on it. I enjoy the campaign on it, and I'm glad to have it. So in that standpoint, I think you will like that. The roster, certainly not my favorite, but because I'm doing something different on a different map with a different objective, it can be overlooked in my mind. But I wanted to tell you about the roster piece and give you my thoughts on it in case that's a deal breaker for you. It was not a deal breaker for me. So anyway, there you go. I've laid it out for you. Playability wise, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. And then from the faction, like as far as the Free-LC faction goes and all the new units and all that stuff, I'm gonna fail it basically at a 5 out of 10 for not being very inspiring. Now, the patch is the one piece that I haven't described. I will get that video to you tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Hope you all enjoyed the insight here. I hope you're enjoying the campaign, and hopefully this helps you make a decision on whether or not you're interested in getting this DLC. That's obviously what I'm trying to do here, is kind of help you be an informed consumer. I know that I haven't been 100% on board with what the Creative Assembly did here, but I do appreciate them letting me review it. And I appreciate them putting effort into the game, absolutely. I'm glad the game has not been dropped. I'm glad to see that there's a patch. I'm glad to see there's DLC. Sometimes we get mad at the DLC, and that's fine, but if those things weren't happening, that means that the support for the game is gone and the game's already dead, which we don't want. So I very much am happy that Creative Assembly did the work to bring a DLC and to put a patch out there. I'm a little disappointed it took so long to get the patch out there. I don't mind the wait on the DLC, because we got a lot of it right at the beginning, but I am disappointed in I guess the lack of the lack of unit variety content and changes that came here. I would have expected it to maybe be more changes, especially since it took us so long to get here. Not going to say it won't happen in the future, and I hope it does, and that would be my feedback to the Creative Assembly if anybody there is watching it. Again, love the fact that you're putting out new content. I love the idea of the Last Roman campaign and the history. Very much enjoyable. Great from that standpoint. Fantastic. As you go through these, though, just from a customer standpoint, please, man, put all that effort into that. We love that unit variety, and we love to see that. I mean, if it's going to take a while to get a patch and a campaign out, hey, that's great. No problem. Just when you release it, we expect a little more than what we saw here, and at least I do. I say we, I did. Am I overall disappointed? No. Would I have expected better here, though? Yes. So anyway, I hope that kind of sums it up, and it's not too back and forth, and I hope you understand where I'm at. Let me know what you think in the comments. HeirofCarthage, signing off for now.